Hi everyone. In this video, we're gonna build a Windows Phone application and integrate LiveID Authentication to that app. So this will be all about it, and I'm hoping this will be pretty straightforward thanks to the updates to the LiveID Live SDK. The latest updates really make it easy to implement the LiveID Authentication into any type of app. But for this demo, for this screencast, what we're gonna do is to go through a simple Windows Phone application. Actually, we're gonna create it from scratch and implement the LiveID Authentication into our app. So let's start. Actually, the first thing that we need to do is to go to the LiveID SDK download page. You can find the link on the screen right now. So we're going to navigate there and download the Live SDK, install it into our computer. So that's something I've already done. But in your case, you will need to navigate to this page and click this blue big button in here, and it will start a new download for you. Actually, when I hit this download button in here, you see the Live SDK version 5.5 supports Windows Phone 8.0, 7.5 and 7.8 as far as I know, if I'm not wrong. And when we click this download button, as you see, the MSI file has already started downloading. It's a pretty small download actually. And once you start any installation, you just need to click next, and finish the installation. That's all you need to do. The next step that we need to go through is to set up a Live Connect app. So our application will be using LiveID services, LiveID authentication services to authenticate our application users, right? So in order to be able to use Live Connect services, we need to get permission for it. So that means we need to get a key, a client ID, to be embedded inside our Windows Phone application, so that our application has the permission to use LiveID authentication APIs hosted by Microsoft. So in order to do that, we need to get a permission, which means we need to define our app in Live Connect management screen. And this is a link that you need to go. Again, here is the link. Just copy and paste that. You will need to log in with your LiveID. This will be your personal LiveID. This has nothing to do with the people that are gonna use your application. This is just the developer's LiveID, like the owner of the application. I mean, in this case, this is an application that I'm building for myself, so I'm the developer, and I'm gonna use my own LiveID for this. But if you're building an application for your company, maybe your company can have an official LiveID that they're using for all developer actions they're doing, like the LiveID they use to reserve their application name on the Windows Phone Marketplace, or the account they are using for the Windows Phone Marketplace. So that there might be an application reserved for such use cases for the company. So in the case you're developing an application for your company, it might be a better option to go ahead and reserve the application key from the Live Connect management screen with the LiveID of your company. So in this case, again, I'm just doing a sample for myself, so I'm going to use my personal LiveID. It doesn't really matter a lot. I do have already two applications defined here. Actually, those are example apps that I did build in the past while hosting sessions like this one, and I'm going to do another one. I'm going to create a new application for this demo. I'm going to click this create application button in here, and right now I need to type in an application name. So sample app for screencast. So this will be the name of my application. Actually, this will be the name that is gonna be shown when users get to the LiveID login screen within my application. So within my application, there will be a button saying sign in with LiveID with the Microsoft account. You know, the new name for your LiveID is the Microsoft account. The branding has been changed. So when they click that button, they will navigate to within my app. They are going to navigate to a website where they can type in their username and the password, you know, and that will be the LiveID, the Microsoft account login screen. And on that login screen, my application name can be visible. So this is where this particular application name definition you see on the screen taps in. This will be the name that will be visible on the LiveID login page. that will just give the message, a sign to the end user that the current LiveID login page they're on is actually hosted for my app. And the language of the app, I'm going to keep that in English, but you can go ahead and pick the language you feel comfortable with. And I'm going to say accept, or obviously you will need to read those terms and policies and everything. Oh, your new application cannot be created. Maybe the name has already been used. Let's say there a sample, accept, and they should be happening pretty fast. So okay, here we go. So our application is ready. So from this point on, I'm not gonna really dig deeper into all these details that you see on the screen because they're not crucial for the demo. But just so you know, you can upload a logo for your application. Again, this logo will be visible on the LiveID login page that you're gonna host in your application. You can type in a terms and service URL, a privacy URL, and so on and so forth. I'll just click save again and make sure everything is saved. The second step that we need to go through is to switch to the API settings and make sure this mobile or desktop client app usage is selected yes, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to use a Windows Phone application to use the services, so we need to make sure we got mobile access enabled. And I click save again. So that's all I need to do actually on the Live Connect management screens. The next step is to go to the app settings and actually grab this client ID. So this is what I need to grab and type into my Windows Phone application. So let's leave it there, or let's copy it over to Notepad here. Make sure we got a copy of it in case we can't access this page again during this demo. So back to Visual Studio. Here what I have is a brand new Windows Phone app. There's nothing in this app right now. This is a simple, pretty empty new application. So the first step that I need to do is to make sure I got the LiveID SDK, the Live SDK assemblies referenced to my app, because those are the helpers. Those are the libraries that I'm going to use in my app. So I'm going to right click and say add reference. And here you're going to see in the extensions list, you see the Microsoft Live and Microsoft Live Controls libraries. The Microsoft Live library is the one that will help us use the APIs exposed by the LiveID Authentication API set. And the Microsoft Live Controls actually is a secondary set of helper controls components that make it much more easier to consume those services hosted by Microsoft Live Authentication. I'm gonna add both these assemblies to my application and click OK. And here we go. We got Microsoft Live and Live Controls added into our Windows Phone app. So from this point on, the next step is to add a sign-in button to our application. And I'm going to use the sign-in button provided by the, again, Microsoft Live Live Controls. Just make it pretty easy to implement it. And in order to do that, the first thing that I need to go is to go up here and define my XML namespace that will map to this reference here, the Microsoft Live Control, so that I can use all the controls residing within this assembly in my XML markup. So to do that, I'm gonna define a namespace, for example, Live Controls, okay, equals, I will wait for the IntelliSense menu to pop up, and here somewhere we should see the Microsoft Live Controls. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna hit enter on my keyboard, and here we got everything typed in. So let me make this a little smaller so that we see the full thing here. XML Live Controls, this is a custom namespace that I have defined in my XML document, and it maps to Cellular Namespace Live Controls namespace within the Live Controls assembly. So after I get this definition completed, I can start using the Live Controls, right? So let's say Live Controls, and we got a sign-in button. Okay, so this is the control that I'm gonna use. Obviously, we don't want the sign-in button to cover the full screen, right? So in that case, what I'm gonna do is horizontal alignment left, and oops, sorry, vertical alignment top. Okay, so this is the sign in button that we're going to use. And I'm gonna change the branding a little bit and say branding, I want to make sure Microsoft account branding is used. Okay, so here I got the Microsoft logo, as you see. So that's all about branding. The functionality will be always the same. You don't need to I mean, this particular property change will not affect the functionality of the button. What else do I need to do? Another step we need to go through is to define the scopes that we're going to use. It's like the permissions that we need from the customer. So in this case, I only need a sign-in permission plus the basic set of metadata associated to that Microsoft account. That means I just want to have the first name and the last name and so on and so forth. But if there's a huge list of scopes that you can use. I mean, feel free to search that on the internet, on the LiveID live management screens. You can do a little research about that, and I'm sure you will be able to find that. Just go ahead and search LiveID scopes. You can request things like I mean, the list of friends of that particular person, or any additional metadata that resides on and related to the Microsoft account. But the important thing here is just be careful, because if you ask a lot of permissions, I mean, these are all the permissions that are going to be listed when your customer goes through the login process. We will see it in a while, but if that set of permissions are kind of too wide, I mean, you request a lot of permissions like an offline token, the list of friends here, and your birthday, your other information that you wouldn't really want to share with this particular app. So in that case, if you go very wide in these scopes, your customer might decide to not log in at all. So that will be really bad for your application. So for the sake of this example, what we want to do is just log in the user and at least get the first name and the last name, and that's all we want to do. We just want to integrate LiveID authentication into our app. We don't have any other functionality we're planning to implement. So for this case, I'm just gonna say give me the sign in permission scope, and give me the basic scope. That's all I need so far. Again, a list of scopes is something you can find on the internet. If you simply Google I mean, LiveID scopes, you will find it. What else I need to do? The final step here is to obviously give the client ID to this button so that it can access LiveID services, right? I'm going to copy this client ID that I got from the Live Connect management screens and paste it in here. I guess we're all set. Right now, everything should work fine, except I don't have any ways to tell when the user logged in or not, if the user logged in or not. So in that case, we need to tap into the event called session changed, right? Create a new event listener for that, okay? So when the user logs in or any type of session change happens because of the sign in button, the application will let me know and fire this event so that I know if the user has been logged in or not. And if the user has been logged, and then I will be able to fetch additional details about that user. So that's all so far. That's all we need to do about the XAML part of things. The next step, the next set of implementation that we need to do is about the backend, about the C# part actually. So I'm gonna say go to definition, and this is where I'm gonna start writing my C# code. Like when the sign-in button session has been changed, there might be a couple of different situations actually. First of all, let me define a private variable, the client variable that we are going to use. This will be the HTTP client that we are going to use to fetch the additional information about a particular user after they log in. So let me define that. It will be inside the Microsoft Live Assembly, obviously. So that will be a Live Connect client. Here we go. Okay. So once we got this one defined, because I do actually define this outside of the scope of this event, because once the user logs in and a client, an HTTP client, actually a Live Connect client for that particular user has been created, you might want to use that same session, that same Live Connect client in other places as well within your app. So not only after the session has been changed, but you might want to use it in other events as well. So that's why I kind of defined it in a higher scope kind of. And so this is where the session has been changed, right? So what we need to do is to check for the status, right? And when we go through the status, we see three different options. The unknown status is like there might be some kind of an error or something. Connected or not connected are statuses that we need to check. And if the user has been obviously connected, let's do something about that, right? The next step would be to create the Live Connect client out of the session that is created through the login process. So I'm going to say client equals new Microsoft Live Connect client, right? And this is the only constructor for Live Connect client asks for a session, and the session is something I can get from the event arguments here of this event, right? And then out of this session, actually this is where I create a Live Connect client. So let's close this up and go ahead. So once I got the client for this particular session, which belongs to the user that is logged in through their LiveID, the next step I would do is to fetch all the basic information about that particular user, right? When we go back to this XML, we ask for two different scopes. So the first one is the sign-in scope, and the second one is the basic scope. And this is what we're gonna do right now. We're gonna fetch the basic information about that particular user, which we have a session about. Okay, what I'm gonna do is to create a live operation result, because we're gonna send a query to LiveID services. Let's say operation result equals await, and this will be an asynchronous call. Client get async, and I will be requesting the information about the current user. So obviously you're calling an asynchronous method, and we need to do so in our event listener as well. Okay, so once we got the response from this operation, we are awaiting it. Once we got it, we need to parse the information within the response, right? And there might be errors when we do it, so let's make sure we got a try catch block in here, right? And in this case, obviously the exception will be a live connect exception. If there is such an exception, we need to do something about that, right? I mean, there is some kind of API error, do something. That's out of the scope of this demo. Just do something, log it, throw it, or do whatever you want. So we need to, like I said, we need to parse the result and make sense of the result. And for that, I'm going to use a dynamic object. I'm going to say dynamic results equals operation result dot result. Here we go. We got the result, and from here what we can do is check if there's a first name and last name field within that. Obviously I will not have any IntelliSense help in here because I'm using a dynamic object, right? So in this case we can check if there's a last name, because a LiveID might have a last name or first name or not. That depends to the user. I mean, if the user has been logged in and set up their username and the password, sorry, the first name and the password, then I'm gonna get those these information. But if they didn't, these will be obviously null, right? If the first name and I just need to make sure I write all these dynamic fields the right way. If the first name and the last name aren't empty, then let's show a message box saying hi, and show the username and the last name, right? Oops, sorry about that. So I'm gonna do something like, here we go. Let me copy and paste this. The first name and the last name. Okay, this should be good. If the first name and the last name are there, just show a message box saying hi, first name and last name together. So that will be a pretty simple greeting. If there isn't a first name and a last name, I can just simply say hi user, right? I don't know your name, you don't have a name or last name, but I still know you, I do recognize you. Actually, another way to the way to uniquely identify a particular logged in user is not through the first name or the last name. Actually, there's a field called ID, and I'm gonna show you that during the debugging of this application, because that's how actually you can relate a LiveID user to a local authenticated user type that you might have in your implementation, right? You just want to recognize that particular user which is logged into a LiveID with a unique ID of it. You know, I mean, their name, their first name and the last name, you know, the first name and the last name together can't be unique globally. So we need a global unique identifier, and actually we do have it. I'm gonna show you that in a second. So everything looks good, but what if the status is not connected? So in that case, that means the login did not happen. Okay, user not logged in. Okay, so that's kind of all we need to do. So right now, I guess we're ready to run the application. If I didn't do anything wrong, this should just work. So let me hit this emulator button and start the bits flowing. Let me make this a little bit smaller. This is the first time that the emulator started, and right now the application is getting deployed, and yeah, here we go. User is not logged in because the initial session change has happened. Actually, I needed to write a couple of lines of code to make sure that error doesn't pop up without any client interaction. But anyways, so right now I got the sign in button. Here we go. When I hit the sign in button, the LiveID login screen will pop up. Again, the speed depends on your internet connection, and it looks like I'm in a little bit of trouble right now. This is taking a while. So, wow. I do have problems with my internet connection. I might have problems. Not a lot is happening. You see down there? Not a lot of connection traffic going on. Okay, here we go. Actually, you might have noticed the jump in the video. Actually, I found it didn't connect to the Live Connect services for a while. So I cut the video through there. I paused the recording, and the problem I figured out is that instead of sign in, I typed signing with a G at the end. So I deleted that, and now everything works. And here I am. Let me click back and go to the initial screen. So here I am. When I click the sign in button, you do see the Microsoft account sign in screen there. So I'm gonna type in my email and my password. Oops. And hit the sign in button. So now I will get a secondary screen where it says, hey, this application called Darren Sample needs permission to sign you in automatically, access your name, gender, display picture, contacts, and friends. So it looks like the basic level, the basic scope includes all this information. So, and the user needs to allow the application to access all this information that is listed up there, so that we can have all that. So if you don't want to have the friend list, the contacts, and so on and so forth, you just need to delete this basic scope from here, and you might just use the sign-in scope, and that should be more than enough to authenticate users uniquely. So I'm gonna say yes to give all this information to that particular app, and here we go. The session has been changed and we're in our event. When I check the status, it's connected, right? Let me go through this code and all these steps. So we already completed a secondary call to LiveID Authentication services and got an operation result. And when we look into that result, what you're going to see is a list of data, like a list of keys. We got the ID, name, first name, last name, a link, a gender, local, and the last updated time about this set of information. So when we take a look at the values here, so here is my unique live ID for the unique ID for my particular live ID. So this is the ID, this is the global unique identifier that you might want to save in your database in order to recognize my particular user when it logs in. So this is my visible username. This is my first name and the last name, and my link to my profile. I don't know what this was. Actually, the sixth key was the gender. It looks like my gender is not defined in my LiveID profile. And here's my local, and here's the last time I have updated my profile. So these are all the information that we are able to access right now through a simple call to the me schema. And when I go and hit F10 again, or let me hit F5, and we're gonna see the message box saying hi there and them. So right now I am logged into the application, and as you see, the button says sign out. The application has my Live Connect client, so it can do additional calls to Live Connect to fetch the list of my friends and so on and so forth. And we do have the unique identifier for this particular user as well. So we did actually implement the full LiveID authentication in the Windows Phone application. So I guess that's all we needed to do. And again, just to list a couple of links on this simple Notepad session. Here's the link again to the Live SDK download. Here's the link where you can define your application in order to be able to access the Live SDK APIs, Live APIs, and the authentication. And in case you want to follow me on Facebook and Twitter, here are the links for that as well. And here's my blog where I try to publish as much information as I can on videos like this one, and a couple of technical articles as well. So keep in touch, and I hope you'll like this video. See you soon.